Then we go on to the product strategy. This section in the business plan should give the reader a clear image and understanding of your product or service. So what are you trying to sell, right? Explain why it is unique. Explain why it will succeed. You can divide the section into 3 subsections if you want. The current product, what does it look like now? Is it a prototype or what is it? The research and development, how are you developing this product or this service? The manufacturing, how are you kind of putting it together and making it into what it is supposed to be. So the current product. So that should be a physical description of your product or service. What function does it serve? Is your product or service protected by copyrights, patents, trademarks, etc.? Tying into that lecture that we also have in this course. What are the terms of this protection? Also tying into the IPR lecture that we have in this course. So look into that if you're not sure of what I'm talking about now. How is your product or service priced? What does it cost? What is your product or service economic value to the consumer or the client if it is a firm? How do your costs compare with your competitors and why is it different? Will the product or service be delivered to the customer in any particular way? Describe this, the distribution chain that is. What post-purchase services will you provide, if any? And research and development. How do you expect profitability to develop in the near future? Are there any efforts being made to increase the profitability, or what are you actually doing here? How many percentage of sales do you spend on R&D? For how long will this research and development efforts continue? How will you test new products or improvements? How will you decide which new products or improvements to pursue? And lastly, manufacturing. How will your product or service be produced, or how will it be acquired? Because you might buy it from an external party, right? You might outsource manufacturing. Are there any important issues to consider during the production process? Who are your key suppliers? Where will the product be manufactured? Why was this site chosen? What staff will be utilized in the production of your product? That was product strategy. And now we're skipping market analysis, and that is because we have a single lecture that is dedicated to market analysis in this course. So we skip that and move on to marketing plan. But this marketing plan should perhaps be labeled marketing and distribution plan. You could have that separately, or you can merge them together. In this lecture they are merged together, because you can actually market your product through the way you distribute it, right? So we start with distribution. And distribution, that is the mechanism to deliver your product or service to the client or the consumer or whoever it is. I say client when I meet a firm, and I say consumer when it is kind of a person, a private person like you and me, when we're not employed anywhere. So that's a distinction that I make. Well, when you distribute your product or service, think about positioning in terms of how do you do this compared to others. Are you doing it in the same way, or do you do it in a unique way that will give you some kind of advantage? Do you have some kind of sales policies? You want it to be done in a certain way, perhaps including kind of ways that you have thought will be of marketing purpose as well. Are there any margins provided to the links in the supply chain? Yes, there will be. How large will they be, and how will they be inclinated to help you out given the margin that I get? Some questions that you can think about and try to answer. What is the target market's important characteristics as they relate to purchasing and distribution? Then you think about your market. When you've done your market analysis, this will be easier, because then you can kind of see how this links to what others are doing in the market and how the market looks like. How will your distribution strategy address these characteristics? Describe the distribution chain that will be utilized to reach those customers. Who will be responsible for marketing? Will it be someone that you employ, or will you outsource that? How will you manage it? Or will it be people along the distribution chain? How do you manage the relationship with your distributors, if you have any? Do you have some kind of customer service? And how will the salesmen and women be organized? Will it be you who organize them, or do you rely on a distributor or a wholesaler, or how do you do it? And as you can see, this distribution chain ties into the business model canvas. So when you've done business model canvas, you've already started to think about these things. But here you kind of put them into the plan, right? So you write them down so that others will understand what you have been thinking about as well. Then we go into promotion, and that is what you initially might have thought about when I said marketing plan, right? How will you communicate your message to the customer? Then you can think about these questions. What characteristics of your product or service do you want to communicate? Describe the market segment you want to reach. What market share do you plan to achieve? What studies or other evidence can you provide to support your product or service superiority? Highlight the important characteristics of your target market. And as you can see here as well, when you did the business model canvas, you started thinking about it, and when you did the value proposition canvas, you for sure started to think about this. What value do you give? Which client, which market segment are you targeting, and so on. That was kind of the tool, but here you kind of put it into writing in the business plan. How will your promotion strategy address the characteristics that you thought about in the previous question when you looked at your value proposition canvas as well, perhaps? Describe your product's positioning from the customer's perspective. So where are you in relation to other offerings and in relation to other things that can solve this particular problem for the client, that can solve the pain for the client, if you use the wording of the value proposition canvas. What characteristics will you appeal to in order to achieve this positioning? How do your advertisement expenditure compare with your competitors? Do you spend more on advertisement than your competitors? Do you spend less? Do you have a smarter kind of way of advertisement so that lower the costs and make it more efficient? Try to explain that here. Is it possible to actually reposition your competitors to your advantage? Is your marketing and distribution plan so creative and new that this will kind of reshape their position as well?